Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, distinguished guests and participants, ladies and gentlemen. I hope all of you are safe and in good health wherever you're tuning in from. My name is Gabriela Inanto. I'm the Associate Officer of Power, Fossil Fuel, Alternative Energy and Storage Department at the ASEAN Centre for Energy. I am so excited to welcome you all to the ASEAN Energy Outlook Forum 2022. This forum is the first ACE event in 2022 and will be held annually at the beginning of each year to present and discuss the potential trends that will impact the energy landscape for that particular year and beyond. For the first edition of the forum this year, we chose the theme of Between COP26 and RCEP, ASEAN Energy Transition Amidst the Recovery. Today's forum will present the insights from 2021 and examine the potential dynamics in 2022 that will shape the energy development at the regional and national level, the challenge in translating the commitment at COP26, the opportunity from Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership or RCEP in supporting the region to build back better and greener amidst the recovery from COVID-19 pandemic. A survey on the ASEAN Energy Agenda in 2022 will also be presented as the center of the discussion. We will start the forum with opening session, followed by three main presentations on the 2021 insights, the regional survey results, and the 2022 Outlook report. After that, we will dive into an in-depth discussion with the experts. I'm also encouraging all participants to not only listen, but also engage in the discussion by asking questions through the Q&A function in the control panel located at the bottom of your screen. Now, without further ado, allow me to invite Dr. Nukiagia Utama, the Executive Director of ASEAN Centre for Energy, to deliver his welcoming remarks. Please, Dr. Nuki, the time is yours.
Thank you, Gaby. Good morning, good afternoon, and also good evening for everyone who's joining this session and later on who's looking at in the YouTube perhaps. Your Excellency, Mr. Soin Sam, the Ministers of Mines and Energy of Cambodia, Ms. Jennifer Tai, Dr. Fong Sok, Dr. Aloysius Joko Purwanto, and colleagues from ASEAN member state and also colleagues from ASEAN Centre for Energy. Distinguished speakers, guests, and participants, on behalf of the ASEAN Centre for Energy, it is my great pleasure to welcome you all at the very first ACE event in 2022, the ASEAN Energy Outlook Forum, or AEOF 2022. This event is also the new ASEAN Centre for Energy's event on regional energy outlook held at the beginning of each year to present and discuss the potential trends that will impact the energy landscape for that particular year or beyond. In this very first edition of ASEAN Energy Outlook Forum, bring the theme Between COP26 and RCEP, the ASEAN Energy Transition Amidst the Recovery. Recovery from the pandemics provide an important opportunity to accelerate the transition towards a resilient, digital, low carbon, sustainable, and inclusive socio-economic recovery, as well as promote orderly and just transition towards green, circular, and more sustainable economies. In line with this, by the end of COP26, the ASEAN decision makers have expressed their contribution to address the challenges ahead on how to decarbonize energy sector while maintaining the economic growth. The several ASEAN governments have committed to support energy-related initiatives such as the Global Methane Pledge, the Global Coal to Clean Power Transition, the super efficient equipment and appliances deployment to promote energy efficient appliances lighting equipment worldwide, and one Sun Declaration to build interconnection capacity across 140 countries through solar, wind storage, and other renewable energy generation. It is also noted that financial technology transfer and capacity building from developed nations are required to help ASEAN countries shift to a low carbon economy. thus could enable the region in energy transition. Distinguished participants, colleagues, in the oil and gas sectors, COVID-19 pandemic has resulted in the reduction of oil and gas supply and demand in 2020. The 2021 represent ASEAN membership aspiration to utilize gas as a transitional fuel in achieving low carbon economy. Hence, many related policies were introduced to make a gas market more competitive, to foster trading hub, and to enhance the innovation in oil and gas industry. Furthermore, we observed many innovation in oil and gas sectors that would flourish in 2022 and beyond. For example, if we incorporate CCUS application, a routine flare restriction, digitalization, and the application of artificial intelligence. Throughout the year of 2021, the recovery of electricity sector is challenged by the volatility of global fuel prices and unstable supply, prompting ASEAN to be cautious. And nevertheless, ASEAN countries were gearing up the new power development plan, shifting to more efficient power plant and lower carbon alternative. ASEAN is also actively digitalizing the electricity sector to foster the adoption of emerging technologies and renewable energy. Meanwhile, throughout the year 2021, the RE has shown to remain resilient on its drive towards economic recovery. Continuing the trend of 2020, the solar and wind power are the leads that push the renewable energy growth to new heights. The widening role of RE is further extended to the utilization of hydropower, geothermal, and biomass as the important RE source as a base load for power generation. Beyond the decarbonization of power sectors, ASEAN relies on both bioenergy, especially on the biofuel sectors, and also electricity vehicles on the demand side, as the best venture for low carbon transportation. Distinguished participants, entering this year 2022, the region is also facing another opportunity to accelerate its development. The Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, or RCEP, the world's biggest free trade agreement, is set to take effect on the 1st January this year, slashing tariff for countries including Japan, China, and member of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, bringing together approximately $25 trillion in economic output. The supersized trade pact covers roughly 30% to 35% of global gross domestic product, population, as well as trade. Moreover, the cooperation will be the key in sailing 2022. And as the chair of ASEAN in 2022, Cambodia is committed to leading ASEAN by championing the 2022 theme of ASEAN ACT, addressing challenges together, to strengthen the essence of togetherness and encourage action-oriented collaboration to provide real results within the 3 pillars of ASEAN community, namely political security, economic, and socio-cultural community. Supporting those regional efforts, including the ASEAN Plan of Action for Energy Cooperation, we are developing the ASEAN Energy Outlook, a biannually flagship publication of the ASEAN member state through the ASEAN Centre for Energy. The last 6 ASEAN Energy Outlook has provided the analysis to comprehensively present ASEAN energy landscape, its challenges and opportunities to ensure a stable, secure, affordable, and sustainable energy supply. Therefore, it is crucial that ongoing analysis of the 7th ASEAN Energy Outlook, or AO7, is expected to outline the status and address the latest trend of energy cooperation in the region by considering the aspirational energy target from the ASEAN member countries, including the path toward the achievement of the regional RE and energy efficiency target. Therefore, we hope that this event will showcase the ACE activity in supporting the ASEAN chairmanship and a platform to present its various studies and promote its flagship publication, and then the 7th ASEAN Energy Outlook, and further to support the regional to build back better and greener amidst the recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. This initiative is organized with the support of the ASEAN Climate Change and Energy Project, or ASEP, which is ASEP is the first energy cooperation project in collaboration with the Norwegian government under the Norwegian ASEAN Regional Integration Program or NARIP. ASEP aims to support ASEAN in improving the coherence between the ASEAN energy and climate policies and contribute to more climate-friendly development of the energy sectors. Before I end my remarks, I would like to convey our highest appreciation again to Your Excellency Mr. Suisam, the Ministers of Mine and Energy of Cambodia, and we look forward to a stronger collaboration during 2022 and fully support to achieve ASEAN energy priority under the chairmanship of Cambodia in this year. Lastly, I wish you all a productive, insightful, and also insightful discussion. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you. Back to you, KB.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nuki, for the wonderful speech. One of ASEAN Energy Outlook Forum's objective is to showcase ACE's activities in supporting the ASEAN chairmanship. As chair of ASEAN for 2022, we are honored to have His Excellency Mr. Suisam, the Minister of Mines and Energy of Cambodia, to deliver his keynote speech. Unfortunately, due to conflicted schedules, His Excellency cannot join the forum live. But we are honored and we really appreciate the time and effort he took to record the keynote speech. Let's hear from His Excellency Mr. Suisam.
អាដាមលោកជំទាវអស់លោកលោកស្រីនិងភ្ញៀវកិត្តិយសទាំងអស់ជាទីរាប់អានជាបឋមខ្ញុំសូមសម្ដែងនៅសេចក្តីរីករាយនិងត្រេកអរយ៉ាងក្រៃលែងដែលត្រូវបានអញ្ជើញឲ្យចូលរួមថ្លែងសុន្ទរកថាតាមប្រព័ន្ធវីដេអូនិងសូមកោតសរសើរនិងវាយតម្លៃខ្ពស់ចំពោះមជ្ឈមណ្ឌលធម្មពលអាស៊ានដែលបានរៀបចំវេទិកាទស្សនវិស័យធម្មពលអាស៊ានសម្រាប់ឆ្នាំ2022ក្រោមមូលបត្រសន្និសីទកំពូលលើកទី26ស្ដីពីការប្រែប្រួលអាកាសធាតុនិងភាពជាដៃគូគ្រប់ជ្រុងជ្រោយក្នុងតំបន់និងអន្តរកាលធម្មពលអាស៊ានក្នុងការស្ដារឡើងវិញក្រោយវិបត្តិ COVID-19 ដ៏មានសារៈសំខាន់នាពេលនេះឡើងបច្ចុប្បន្ននេះបញ្ហាការប្រែប្រួលអាកាសធាតុនិងបញ្ហាបរិស្ថានគឺជាបញ្ហាគួរឲ្យបារម្ភរបស់តំបន់និងពិភពលោកក្នុងរយៈពេលប្រមាណឆ្នាំចុងក្រោយនេះគ្រោះមហន្តរាយដែលបានកើតឡើងជាបន្តបន្ទាប់ជុំវិញពិភពលោកមានសភាពកាន់តែធ្ងន់ធ្ងរនិងកាន់តែញឹកញាប់លើសពីអ្វីដែលយើងធ្លាប់បានជួបប្រទះកន្លងមកក្នុងបរិបទនេះទោះបីជាយើងមានភាពចាំបាច់ក្នុងការបង្វែរទិសដៅអធិភាពគោលនយោបាយនិងធនធានដើម្បីប្រយុទ្ធប្រឆាំងនឹងជំងឺ COVID-19 ការការពារបរិស្ថាននិងការប្រយុទ្ធប្រឆាំងជាមួយការប្រែប្រួលអាកាសធាតុនៅតែជារបៀបវារៈមួយដ៏សំខាន់សម្រាប់ការអភិវឌ្ឍសេដ្ឋកិច្ចសង្គមប្រកបដោយចីរភាពប៉ុន្តែការអភិវឌ្ឍសេដ្ឋកិច្ចសង្គមត្រូវការប្រើប្រាស់ថាមពលជាចាំបាច់ក្នុងនោះដើម្បីឲ្យសេដ្ឋកិច្ចសង្គមរីកចម្រើនយើងត្រូវការចាំបាច់នៅការផ្គត់ផ្គង់ថាមពលមួយដែលគ្រប់គ្រាន់មានស្ថិរភាពមាននិរន្តរភាពនិងសន្តិសុខក្នុងនាមជាភាគីនៃអនុសញ្ញាបម្រែបម្រួលអាកាសធាតុក្នុងក្របខ័ណ្ឌអង្គការសហប្រជាជាតិកម្ពុជាបានដាក់តម្កល់នៅសេចក្តីបដិញ្ញាចិត្តក្នុងការចូលរួមចំណែកថ្នាក់ជាតិរបស់ខ្លួនកាលពីឆ្នាំ2015និងបានដាក់របាយការណ៍បច្ចុប្បន្នភាពស្តីពីការចូលរួមចំណែករបស់ជាតិដើម្បីដោះស្រាយការប្រែប្រួលអាកាសធាតុជូនទៅលេខាធិការដ្ឋានអនុសញ្ញាសហប្រជាជាតិស្តីពីការប្រែប្រួលអាកាសធាតុនាដំណាច់ឆ្នាំ2020កន្លងមកនេះកម្ពុជាទទួលស្គាល់អំពីសេចក្តីត្រូវការក្នុងការចូលរួមចំណែកប្រយុទ្ធប្រឆាំងនិងបម្រែបម្រួលអាកាសធាតុសកលក្រោមគោលការណ៍ជាបញ្ហារួមប៉ុន្តែការអនុវត្តផ្សេងៗគ្នាទៅតាមទំនួលខុសត្រូវនិងតាមសមត្ថកិច្ចរៀងៗខ្លួនទន្ទឹមនឹងសិទ្ធិក្នុងការអភិវឌ្ឍប្រកបដោយចីរភាពរបស់ប្រទេសដែលកំពុងអភិវឌ្ឍដែលក្នុងនោះកម្ពុជាគឺជាប្រទេសមួយដែលបញ្ចេញអូស្មန်កាបូនតិចតួចបំផុតហើយក៏ជាប្រទេសដែលប្រឈមខ្ពស់ទល់នឹងផលប៉ះពាល់បង្កឡើងដោយបម្រែបម្រួលអាកាសធាតុផងដែរការប្រើប្រាស់ថាមពលប្រកបដោយប្រសិទ្ធភាពការអភិវឌ្ឍថាមពលកកើតឡើងវិញ និងការអភិវឌ្ឍថាមពលកាបូនទាបគឺជាការចូលរួមចំណែកប្រយុទ្ធប្រឆាំងនឹងបម្រែបម្រួលអាកាសធាតុសកលក៏ដ៏មានប្រសិទ្ធភាពនៅក្នុងវិស័យថាមពលនៅក្នុងឆ្នាំ2020កន្លងមកនេះប្រភពផ្គត់ផ្គង់ថាមពលបឋមរបស់ប្រទេសកម្ពុជាមានថាមពល 60% បានមកពីការប្រើប្រាស់ឥន្ធនៈហ្វូស៊ីលដែលមានធ្យូងថ្មនិងប្រេងនិងថាមពល 40% ទៀតបានមកពីប្រភពថាមពលកកើតឡើងវិញដែលមានពរិយាអគ្គិសនីថាមពលដើរដោយពន្លឺព្រះអាទិត្យនិងថាមពលជីវម៉ាសបើមើលតាមទំហំនៃអនុភាពប្រភពថាមពលរបស់កម្ពុជាវិញចំណែកអនុភាពនៃប្រភពថាមពលប្រើឥន្ធនៈហ្វូស៊ីលមានប្រហែល 45% នៃអនុភាពសរុបប៉ុណ្ណោះក្នុងពេលដែលចំណែកអនុភាពរបស់ប្រភពថាមពលកកើតឡើងវិញមានរហូតដល់ 55% ដូចនេះយោងតាមស្ថិតិបច្ចុប្បន្នវិស័យថាមពលរបស់ប្រទេសកម្ពុជាបានចូលរួមចំណែកយ៉ាងច្រើនរួចទៅហើយក្នុងការបញ្ចូលចំណែកមួយដ៏ធំនៃប្រភពថាមពលកកើតឡើងវិញនៅក្នុងប្រភពផ្គត់ផ្គង់ថាមពលបឋមនិងទៅក្នុងលបាយនៃប្រភពថាមពលអាដាមអរលោកស្រីភ្ញៀវកិត្តិយសជាទីរាប់អានផលប៉ះពាល់ដោយសារ COVID-19 មកលើតម្រូវការថាមពលបានជំរុញឲ្យយើងខ្ញុំត្រូវធ្វើការពិចារណាឡើងវិញជាបន្ទាន់អំពីលបាយនៃប្រភពថាមពលជាមួយនឹងប្រេងឥន្ធនៈដែលយើងខ្ញុំត្រូវប្រើនៅពេលអនាគតដើម្បីបំពេញនៅសេចក្តីត្រូវការអគ្គិសនីនិងសេចក្តីត្រូវការក្នុងវិស័យផ្សេងៗទៀតក្រសួងរាយថាមពលបានសហការជាមួយធនាគារអភិវឌ្ឍន៍អាស៊ីដើម្បីសិក្សាលម្អិតអំពីផែនការអភិវឌ្ឍវិស័យថាមពលកម្ពុជាជាថ្មីឡើងវិញរហូតដល់ឆ្នាំ2040ដោយតម្រង់គោលដៅបង្កើនចំណែកនៃថាមពលស្អាតទៅក្នុងលបាយផលិតអគ្គិសនីនៅកម្ពុជាដល់កម្រិតអតិបរមាហើយអាចរក្សាបាននៅការការពារសន្តិសុខថាមពលនិងស្ថិរភាពនៃការផ្គត់ផ្គង់ថាមពលរបស់កម្ពុជាឯលើផែនការថ្មីនេះក្រសួងរាយថាមពលបានបដិញ្ញាចិត្តមិនរៀបចំគម្រោងអភិវឌ្ឍរោងចក្រអគ្គិសនីដុតធ្យូងថ្មបន្ថែមថ្មីទៀតទេក្រៅពីគម្រោងដែលរាជរដ្ឋាភិបាលកម្ពុជាបានសម្រេចរួចកាលពីឆ្នាំ2019ដោយបដូរមកប្រើប្រភពថាមពលកាបូនទាបដូចជាអូស្មန်ធម្មជាតិនាំចូល LNG ឬក៏អ៊ីដ្រូសែនជំនួសវិញនិងបង្កើនការប្រើប្រាស់ប្រភពថាមពលកកើតឡើងវិញនិងប្រភពថាមពលផ្សេងទៀតដែលមិនមានគ្រោះថ្នាក់ដល់បរិស្ថានជាមួយនឹងការរៀបចំគោលនយោបាយនិងការវិវត្តគម្រោងស្ដីពីប្រសិទ្ធភាពថាមពលតាមផែនការដែលបានរៀបចំជាមួយ ADB ដើម្បីចូលរួមកាត់បន្ថយការបញ្ចេញអូស្មန်ផ្ទះកញ្ចក់ទៅក្នុងបរិយាកាសជាមួយគ្នានេះដែរកម្ពុជាក៏នឹងកែច្នៃគម្រោងមុនដែលប្រើប្រាស់ឥន្ធនៈហ្វូស៊ីលឲ្យមានលក្ខណៈស្អាតជាងមុនដោយប្រើប្រាស់បច្ចេកវិទ្យាថ្មីដូចជាការចាប់យកកាបូនការប្រើប្រាស់និងការស្តុកទុកកាបូនឬបច្ចេកវិទ្យាអ៊ីដ្រូសែនជាដើមជាចុងក្រោយខ្ញុំពិតជាមានសេចក្តីសោមនស្សរីករាយយ៉ាងក្រៃលែងនិងសូមថ្លែងអំណរគុណចំពោះមជ្ឈមណ្ឌលថាមពលអាស៊ានជាថ្មីម្ដងទៀតដែលបានអញ្ជើញខ្ញុំមកចែករំលែកអំពីការអភិវឌ្ឍវិស័យថាមពលរបស់កម្ពុជាក្នុងវេទិកាស្ដីពីទស្សនវិស័យថាមពលអាស៊ានសម្រាប់ឆ្នាំ2022ខ្ញុំសូមជូនពរឲ្យវេទិកានេះប្រព្រឹត្តទៅប្រកបដោយភាពជោគជ័យនិងសូមជូនពរឲ្យអាដាមលោកជំទាវអស់លោកលោកស្រីមានសុខភាពល្អបរិបូរណ៍និងទទួលបានជោគជ័យគ្រប់ភារកិច្ចការងារសូមអរគុណ
Thank you very much, His Excellency Mr. Suisem, for the excellent speech. Before we continue, I would like to invite all speakers to open your camera so we can take a picture together. Once again, I'm inviting all speakers to open your camera so we can take a picture together. Okay. In 3, 2, 1, smile. One more time. In 3, 2, 1, smile. Okay, thank you very much. You may now turn off your camera. Now it's time to get down to business. To proceed with the agenda, let's all welcome the moderator for the next session, Mr. Benny Suryadi. Mr. Benny is the manager of PFS department at ACE and also the manager of ASEAN Climate Change and Energy Project or ACCEPT. He has over 10 years of experience managing research and programs related to energy, power, and climate change in Southeast Asia, supporting the countries in accelerating their energy transition. Mr. Benny, over to you.
Um, Thank you very much, Gabriela and Nanto. Good afternoon, everyone from Jakarta. And allow me to start by saying Happy New Year to everyone. Wishing everyone in the safe and healthy, and then wishing all the best to all of us in this 2022. It's an honor for me to meet you all and moderate our first event in 2022, where we are going to talk a bit about the past, the current, and also a futures that what we are going to face in 2022. And then I have an honor to be the moderator for our discussion today. This two-part where I will moderating. The first one is the scene setting presentation from ACE colleagues, where we have three researchers from the ASEAN Centre for Energy to present us about a bit about the past and survey and the outlook in 2022. And then after that, we will have a panel discussion with the expert. To start with our first session on the ACE presentation on the scene setting 2021 and 2022 ASEAN energy transition, we will have a three presentation. Then it will be started by finding on 2021 insight, they will be presented by ACE researcher Ms. Monica Merdekawati. So a bit intro about Ms. Monica Merdekawati. She's the officer in Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Department at ACE. She was also a research analyst at the ASEAN Climate Change and Energy Projects. She's responsible for the engagement with the government official and also leading various study covering the renewable energy and energy efficiency investment and general ASEAN energy policy. Prior that, she was with the developers, have a hands-on exercise experience on the wind and solar farm development in Indonesia, and her research interests include the energy climate policy and energy economic. For this, I would like to invite Ms. Monica Merdekawati to present us about the finding on 2021 Insight. Ms. Monica, time is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Benny, for the kind introduction. Hello, my name is Monica Merdekawati. I am a research analyst of Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Department of ACE. For the next 12 minutes, I will share the development of energy sector during 2021, where the article highlights the key energy trends that could shift the energy market and also the member states' green recovery in 2022. Next slide, please. So the insights were extracted from the analysis of our news archives in 2021. These are the continuation of the COVID-19 versus energy sector insights in 2020, where we want to learn the policy updates and innovation from within ASEAN to enhance the regional energy cooperation. And as the year of 2021 also represents the year of COP26, we also include the energy climate perspective as highlighted in the quarterly energy climate insights here. Next slide, please. So let's start with the quick reflection of energy sectors in 2021. Starting from the oil and gas sector, we observed that the industry strongly recovers in 2021. There is a significant increase from last year exploration activities. The major oil producing countries of ASEAN, such as Indonesia and Malaysia, were announcing the national policies to strengthen the role of oil and gas sector as part of the economic recovery. We also noted the increase of oil and gas prices, which reached the highest level in Q3. And we observe how the ASEAN member states consider gas as a transition fuel in achieving low carbon energy system. In electricity sector, we observe that the sector is challenged by the disruption of fuel supply and also cautious outlook on economic recovery. Despite of these challenges, the COP26 really drives the decarbonization agenda in ASEAN power sector through the scale up of gas and also renewable energy. The cross-border electricity also gained the attention of member states as part of the key strategy to balance the aspiration of energy security and also climate commitments. And the digitalization is also embraced to accelerate the energy transition in ASEAN. In renewable energy sector, we note the continuing resiliency that also reflected in 2020. The policy framework is improved to increase the adoption of RE. The solar and wind farms lead the decarbonization of power sector, while the other forms of renewable energy such as hydro, geothermal, and biomass are also part of the bigger picture to supply the baseload electricity. And ASEAN pursue the increase of biofuel blending and also the adoption of electric vehicles to decarbonize the transportation sector. Next slide, please. So, despite of COVID-19 has caused a significantly lower oil demand in 2020, the 2021 got off to an exciting start with Cambodia announcing the first crude oil production. And in the second quarter, Malaysia announced the 10-year blueprint for the oil and gas sector. In the third quarter, we observed the oil and gas prices have rebounded to the highest level. In Q4, we note the development of the largest gas project in Vietnam and the plan of Indonesia to explore 5 oil and gas basins in the eastern part. Alongside with the uptake of renewable energy, gas has gained attention as a cost-competitive and cleaner alternative to coal in supplementing the intermittency of renewable energy. This is reflected in the new energy mix target of Philippines and the Power Development Plan 8 of Vietnam. With this, the improvement of gas infrastructure such as power plant, transportation, storage were growing throughout 2021. We also observed the supply deals with other non-ASEAN countries to keep up with the upward projection of the demand and also depleting gas production. In addition, several member states also have the ambition to become the regional LNG trading hubs, such as demonstrated by the Philippines, who approved 6 companies in May to build several LNG terminals equal to $1.6 billion of investment. Next slide, please. To cope with the increasing pressure of climate pledges, the oil and gas industries were responding well with the adoption of emerging technologies such as carbon capture storage, hydrogen, and digitalization, as mentioned here in the slide. In addition to this, we noted the rising challenges that need to be addressed in 2022, such as the aging oil wells across ASEAN, in particular Brunei Darussalam. There will be over 1,000 oil platforms reaching the end of their operational life over the next 30 years, and we observed a number of fire accidents in oil and gas facilities throughout 2021 in several member states. One example is in Pertamina's Cilacap refinery. Next slide, please. So the electricity demand was expected to rise in 2021, following the major slump in the preceding year due to COVID-19. Such optimism was echoed in the first semester by the government of Cambodia and the state-owned utilities of Malaysia, Philippines, and Thailand, which all hoping for the strong economic recoveries to make up for the losses. However, this expectation was hindered by the spiking fuel prices and also unstable power supply, notably in 4 member states, Cambodia, Philippines, Singapore, and Thailand, prompting the member states to continue the fiscal incentives to subsidize the electricity tariff. Next slide, please. So leading to the COP26, The member states embraced the momentum by announcing greener power development plans, in which the top priority is transition from coal to gas and renewable power, as reflected by Vietnam, Malaysia, and Indonesia. The problems of the electricity system have also received the attention of policymakers. The efforts to improve the resiliency of power system were observed, such as to improve the competitiveness of power market, to encourage higher use of RE, and to encourage the energy efficiency practice in power industry. The example of this is the Energy Market Authority of Singapore is setting up policies for power generation companies to comply with the emission standards. Beyond the domestic measures, the member states also explored the cross-border power connections to raise the take-up of renewable energy while strengthening the regional electricity supply. For example, the discussion of the first 100 megawatt electricity transaction under the ASEAN Power Grid in 2022, and also the agreement of Australian ASEAN Power Link, an intercontinental power grid that aiming to supply 20% of Singapore's electricity demand by 2027 with the renewable power. This is just a fraction of Singapore's grand plan to import up to 4 gigawatts of low carbon power, equal to 30% of total supply by 2035. Amongst others, we also noted the intention to expand the volume of electricity transaction within the Mekong areas from low PDR to neighboring countries. Next slide, please. Many factors have increasingly affected the ASEAN power system in unpredictable ways, such as the sudden changes of electricity demand and supply, the volatility of global fuel price, and also natural disasters. Adding the climate commitments into the equations, policymakers, business leaders, and other stakeholders are challenged by new and complex decisions, often with partial information. Therefore, the digitalization has been recognized as a critical effort for accelerating the adoption of new storage technology. For example, the member states have shown much progress in hydrogen and also batteries. Next slide, please. The year of 2021 also witnessed the growing resilience of renewable energy. This has been partly driven by the improvements in technology that have continuously reduced the cost of RE. The member states have also been actively strengthening their policy frameworks to enable the easy adoption of renewable energy. A notable policy change is the higher share of renewable energy in the updated power generation mix. The upgraded goals signify the wider role of RE in the recovery plans, where we observed a number of improvements, such as the discussion of introducing new renewable energy bill in Indonesia, the new schemes to incentivize the use of renewable energy, such as the green energy pricing scheme in Philippines, and the allocation of $1.8 billion by Singapore as the catalyst of green investment. Next slide, please. So continuing the trend of 2020, solar and wind power had been expected to lead the regional RE growth. Indeed, many new milestones were reached throughout 2021, even in Vietnam, where RE already developed a lot. Vietnam began 2021 with by surpassing the 12.5 gigawatt solar electricity target by 2025, and will have over 5.6 gigawatt of operating wind power in 2022. While the onshore wind project have begun traction in Vietnam, the Philippines has shifted the focus to offshore projects. Partnering with the World Bank, Philippines began crafting an offshore wind roadmap and was awarded the development rights to the first 5 offshore wind projects with a combined capacity of 5 gigawatt. Another significant achievement is the increasing number of utility-scale floating solar projects. However, to solve the intermittency issue of solar and wind, the member states recognize the potential of renewable baseload sources like hydropower, geothermal, and biomass to fully decarbonize the power system, as demonstrated by the new initiatives in the slides. Next slide, please. In addition to decarbonization of the electricity, the member states are also striving for the low carbon transportation through maximizing the electric vehicles and also the use of biofuel. So far, this strategy has been adopted by Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, and Thailand, where these countries are ramping up their biofuel blending mandate and progressively developing the regulation for the electric vehicle, starting from the manufacturing of battery, the construction of infrastructure such as EV charging stations, and also the fiscal incentives to encourage EV ownership. In the ASEAN countries where biofuel are not the viable option, EV development is prioritized by focusing on the sourcing of EV power from renewable energy-based electricity to reduce the emission, which demonstrated by Singapore, who is currently the front runner in ASEAN, with the allocation of 30 million Singapore dollar for the EV-related initiatives for the next 5 years. Next slide, please. On that final note, that concludes my presentation, and I'd be happy to welcome any question. And back to you, Mr. Benny.
Hey, thank you very much, Monica. I think we have a lot of recap on what happened in 2021. That would be very interesting to hear. But I have one question that could be, I mean, for the last year, I mean, especially during the COP, we hear a lot of announcement on the net zero pledge by countries in this region. So just like to hear your thought that how will it affect the energy sector in 2022? If you can share your views, Monica.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Benny, for the question. It is a difficult one, but I will try to share my perspective here. I believe that having ratified the Paris Agreement, the member states have always defined the success of energy transition in terms of increasing the RE share over the years. But the question is, what is the ultimate goal? How we measure a certain RE share is enough? And I believe with the COP26, actually, I welcome the fact that the 8 member states had declared their net zero pledges. Reaching net zero is indeed challenging, but I believe it provides a clear bar to measure performance in mitigating climate change. So to answer your question, how will it affect the energy sector in 2022? I believe the net zero would be a good wake-up call for the member states in finding the way of decarbonizing hard-to-abate sector like the steel industry, cement, and also transportation, which so far receive less attention because we only focus on the power sector. But with net zero, I believe the member states will start seriously looking on the innovation and also R&D activities to find any way possible to really decarbonize this part of the energy sectors. Where I see in 2021, the member states are heading towards that. From the energy insights that I have been presented, I noted there are significant development in the development of sustainable efficient fuels, CCUS, hydrogen, the digitalization, battery storage, smart grid, and also flexible demand side management. I hope that answered your
Yes,
question.
thank you. But it will be very interesting. It's going to be to have it. But thank you, Monica. Then I will move to our second scene setting presentation. Before we hear about what happened in the past, 2021, then I would like to invite my colleague Suwanto to present to us about the survey that we conducted to hear what people thought about what going to be happen in 2022. Brief intro about Suwanto, that he is the technical officer in the power, fossil fuel, alternative energy and storage department of ACE. He has both enthusiasm on the non-renewable and renewable energy issue. He holds a master's degree from Germany, majoring in sustainable system engineering, and he has experience as a petroleum engineer at one of the biggest oil companies in Indonesia before. Mr. Suwanto, time is yours to share with us the finding from the survey. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Penny, for your kind introduction. So after next slide, please. Yeah, so after listening the presentation about some highlights in ASEAN energy sector in 2021, I would like to present the result of our regional survey on energy in ASEAN. Next slide, please. So let's talk about the survey itself. The survey itself is intended to gather the information and the aspirations from the respondents about the highlights of any sector in 2021 by considering the COVID-19 impacts and what's the energy sector's outlook, the challenges and opportunities in 2022 and beyond. So we conducted the survey from mid of December last year until 5th of January. The survey is available in 8 languages: English, Bahasa, and then Thai, Chinese, Vietnamese, Burmese, Philippine, and Lao. And we received the feedbacks from almost 200 respondents, which mostly coming from Indonesia, and then Malaysia, Singapore, and Philippines, and other ASEAN countries. And among all the respondents, most of them are in the renewable energy sector, and other sectors are relatively equally distributed among power and then oil and gas and energy efficiency. The institutions are mainly from research institution, think tank, and universities, then from the business sector and also from the government. Next slide, please. So based on this survey, last year's energy sector have faced several challenges. We noted that COVID-19 impacts was still affected the energy sector the most. It was then followed by the effect of economic turbulence during 2021 and some concern regarding environmental impacts that was caused by the energy sector. And however, as the vaccination rate was increasing and the number of active cases was also decreasing last year, so nearly 70% of the people think that the energy sector in ASEAN were, and a quarter of them are still thinking that ASEAN still drowning in uncertainties. But among all the energy types, most of the survey participants agree that renewable energy saw the best performance in 2021 by around 69%, followed by oil and gas for only around 17%. Next slide, please. In the last slide, we learned that COVID-19 has impacted the energy sector in ASEAN in 2021. In 2022, most people think that COVID-19 would still impede energy sectors in ASEAN. The survey results show that around 52% of the participants think that the COVID-19 would impede somewhat in energy sector because having the current emergence of new variant Omicron, and 24% of them are not sure whether COVID-19 would impede or accelerate. So in terms of energy affordability, coal would become the most affordable electricity source. And interestingly, renewable energy sources coming from hydro and solar energy are considered to more affordable in 2022, followed by the natural gas. Next slide, please. On the renewable energy sector, we learned that renewable energy is resilient during the pandemic. So people are confident that renewable energy would be the main energy source in the future to provide the electricity. And among all renewable energy types, the solar and wind would be in the future. And however, in terms of regional targets on renewable energy and energy intensity in 2025, there are still any uncertainties to achieve the targets, where most people still in doubt or uncertain. They think that there are any policy gaps to achieve the targets, and in the recovery period from the pandemic, the first priority is maybe to put economic recovery first, and we start to think for another sectors. Next slide, please. The next analysis is on natural gas and interconnectivity. Based on the survey, most of the people are, or around 75% agree that natural gas has an important role as the transitional fuel from a fossil fuel-based to renewable energy, as well as to enable other low carbon technologies such as hydrogen. In this regard, the interconnectivity through ASEAN gas, Trans-ASEAN gas pipeline or AGP and ASEAN Power Grid or APG have the opportunity to scale up in line with the economic development. Therefore, we need more support in research and development. The top 3 innovations that could be done to quickly promote the adoption of the interconnectivity, such as by establishing a supporting policy and regulatory framework, and support financial scheme by offering the incentive to stimulate investment, and making a solid collaboration between the agencies from the governments from all the countries. Next slide, please. In 2021, we have learned that some of low carbon emerging technologies start to emerge to strengthen the energy system. For example, hydrogen technology, CCUS, electric vehicle, and energy storage. So to accelerate the adoption of those technologies, most people think to provide the incentive by around 37%, such as tax incentive to attract more investment in low carbon emerging technologies. Other things that need to be addressed are related to the establishment of policy and regulatory framework to there is the development of those opportunities. And as those technologies are mainly in the research stage, we also need to support R&D by offering them the fund to maturing the technology to be ready for deployment. Next slide, please. Another notable event in 2021 was about COP26, where the leaders from nearly 200 countries, including ASEAN countries, were attending to discuss many issues such as climate change and energy sector. As most of ASEAN member states are developing countries, the region is considered having strong commitment that have been made at COP26 based on the survey from around 60% of the respondents. The other 24% think that ASEAN region should have more, but we are still facing the challenge on energy dilemma. Regarding the global call to clean power transition statement, most of the participants, for around 63%, agree that ASEAN needs to replace coal with renewable energy, and 27% of them are neutral, and 10% don't agree since ASEAN still need coal as the main energy sources. Next slide, please. So as mentioned by ED in the welcoming remark, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership or RCEP, the world's biggest free trade agreement, is set to take effect on 1st of January. Around 38% of the respondents are confident enough that the RCEP would accelerate somewhat of energy transition in ASEAN, while around 25% of them are still unsure, and 23% thinking that RCEP would impede somewhat. They also mostly think that RCEP would support the development of solar energy in ASEAN, followed by natural gas as transitional energy. Next slide. From the survey, there's some possible issues that would emerge in 2022. For example, net zero target as the output from COP26, geopolitical concern in energy sector, climate resiliency, concerning about unstable energy supply, the discussion on the future of coal, the role of nuclear, energy storage, natural gas, as well as hydrogen, and also carbon pricing. Next slide. I think that's all, and thank you for your kind attention. Back to you, Mr. Ben.
Hey, thank you very much, Swanto. That I think, and also thank you very much for everyone who share your view in our survey. I think it's pretty much reflect all on our aspiration on what's going on in 2022. We have time constraint, but one small question from your last point saying that I think it's also huge debate now. Natural gas as the bridging fuels to the cleaner energy transition. So can you share your short views on that? On this bridging fuels to cleaner energy transition?
Yes, yeah. I think we do agree that natural gas has some vital roles in advancing low carbon energy transition. So on top of that, we have under the ASEAN Plan of Action for Energy Cooperation. I think our regional blueprint on energy sector, the region has the vision to create a common gas market to enable multilateral cooperation and coordination in gas trading in the region to increase the security of natural gas supply, reduce carbon emission. So for this, I think we need to accelerate the implementation of common gas market by, for example, updating the current master plan of Trans-ASEAN gas pipeline, and then establishing a regional and national policy roadmap to the establishment of common gas market. So on the other hand, I think as one of the challenge is geographical landscape of Asian region, I think we need also to accelerate the implementation of a small scale LNG, for example, by providing fiscal and tax incentive, and then also conducting a feasibility study of LNG to power opportunities in ASEAN to really accelerate as the natural gas is as the bridge of fuel to energy transition in ASEAN.
Thank you, Swanto. That's the way I'm thinking. A lot of people will agree with you, but I think a lot of people will say challenge that kind of thing. Thank you for that. Now we move to the next presentation by my good colleagues, Muhammad Rizky Krasnawan, the technical officer from Policy and Planning and Modeling Department. Rizky is also part of the ASEP members. He was one of the modelers who developed the 6th ASEAN Energy Outlook that presented to the ASEAN Minister on Energy meeting, I think 2 years ago. And he also part of the modelers who developed the 7th ASEAN Energy Outlook, which was mentioned by executive directors earlier, which will be presented to the minister meeting this year. So, Rizky, I will offer to you to share with us some of your finding or identification about what's going to be happen in 2022. Pass it to you, Rizky. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Benny, for your kind introduction. Yeah. It is indeed it's an honor for me to present some findings from our research study regarding what would be happen in 2022 outlook, and then after hearing some of the findings from insights in 2021 and also the regional survey in 2022 led by Monica and also Swanto. I think it's also good if we can discuss about how would be ASEAN Energy Outlook in 2022 would be. Can I have next slide, please? Pandemic has disrupted economic activities in 2020. With lots of mobility restrictions, overall energy consumption has declined in various sectors. Energy demand in transport and also industry has dropped about 88% and 66.8% respectively in 2020 compared to 2019. While for commercial and also agriculture also experienced a drop. This is a similar issue with industry and also transport, but in terms of amount of energy, these two sectors is not as significant as transport and also industry. In contrast, residential energy demand jumped from about 0.8% in 2020 compared to 2019. This is because of the mobility restrictions forced people to running the activities mostly at home. In terms of supply, fossil fuel reportedly dropped from 82.6% to 81.2%, while renewable energy seemingly grow almost 1.5% in 2022. Next slide, please. During the pandemic, lots of people having difficulties due to the economic activity slowdown, and then some of the governments providing economic recovery package, including on energy and overall sector. Various recovery package has been disbursed by ASEAN member states, such as electricity tariff relief, which disbursed by all of member states. The second one is a fiscal stimulus package disbursed by Indonesia, Malaysia, and also Thailand. And then another one is disbursing about the loans to provide to support the companies in energy sector provided by Indonesia and also Singapore, and also tax waivers provided by Malaysia and also Singapore, if I'm mistaken. So this economic package is intends to help the people, the communities to grow, to recover from the pandemic situation. Next slide, please. After we're talking about the economic package and also what would be the situation that happened in 2019 and also 2020, we would like to assess the current situation of the pandemics and also its impact to the energy sector. As you all may aware, that vaccination rate has been increased significantly in all member states. The mobility restriction has been loosened and also new normal become more common. We expect there is the impact to energy sector in the post-pandemic compared to the pre-pandemic level. Energy demand is expected to continue its growth and then rebound along with the economic recovery that estimated about 2% according to IMF, and according to latest publications from IEA Global Energy Review, they predicted that ASEAN energy demand will grow about 2% from the pre-pandemic level, and then this situation might be important for ASEAN to see and handle wisely on how economic rebound would be shape the future of energy demand in ASEAN. Next slide, please. Last year will be the most important year in climate conference history. From the COP26, we noted that there are some updates on NDCs from ASEAN member states. 9 out of 10 having unconditional target, leaving Cambodia only having a conditional target from its NDC. And then in terms of sector coverage, energy will be the will be prioritized by all ASEAN member states, along with the agriculture and also the other sectors in transport, IPPU, LULUCF, and also waste. In terms of GHG coverage, Malaysia and Singapore have broader energy GHG coverage in their latest NDC, while the Myanmar only covers the CO2 GHG for this their recent NDC submitted to UNFCCC. Next slide, please. After updating NDC, there discussion on the Glasgow Climate Pact, the signatories that assigned by most of the parties in UNFCCC conference. There are at least 5 points that we highlight that would be crucial for ASEAN to be aware in the future. The first one is about science and urgency. There is a needs to put science-based decision-making method to be escalated into large-scale policy making. The second one is about the adaptation plan that's urging the integration between local, national, and also regional planning for the adaptation plan. And then the third one about climate adaptation finance. There is an agree that about $100 billion per year joint climate finance institute to be mobilized, started in 2025. And then about the clean power generation, there's a discussion to pace down the unabated coal power and also phasing out any inefficient fossil fuel subsidies. While the last one is about international collaboration and also cooperation that's force the developed countries to provide financial, technology, and also knowledge transfer to the developing countries. Next slide, please. Talking about the green power generation, as mentioned by Swanto previously, there are global coal to clean power statement that been signed by various parties. This clean power statement have at least 4 clauses. The first one is about rapid development of clean power. The second one is scaling up the technology and also policies. The third one is ceasing issuance of permits and construction of new coal power plant. The fourth one is turning any efforts, including the technical and also financial framework, as well as the social support. 5 ASEAN countries have signed to this statement, namely Brunei, Indonesia, Philippines, Singapore, and also Vietnam, while Indonesia partially excluded the third clause, and Philippines known to only endorse first clause and partially the second and fourth. Despite of the conditionality agreement of the clause, the MS signatories of the agreement have set the bold move towards transition away from coal. Next slide, please. After we're talking about the statement and what will happen, what already happened during COP26, we move to the country basis that some of the countries already having targets beyond their NDCs. The long-term strategies are to be expected would be drive the priorities in the next few years. There are 9 out of 10 ASEAN member states has committed to reach net zero, while Cambodia is the last one to submit their long-term strategies back in December 2021. And as countries moving towards more ambitious long-term goals, the rapid development on technology innovation and also the other would expect to be happen in the next few years. There are several countries that already set the 2050 as the net zero target year, like Brunei, Cambodia, all PDR, Malaysia, Myanmar, and also Vietnam, while Indonesia setting the goals in 2060, Thailand setting the target in 2065, while Singapore set it in second half of the century. Next slide, please. In terms of power sector, there is a need to accelerate towards energy transition. Power sector expected to play the prominent role with about 285 gigawatt power capacity has been installed in 2020. And moving towards 2022, some countries reported to update their power development plans. There are some highlights that I can quote in the small box on the right-hand side. About the 2022 possible capacity addition. Cambodia expect to have 86% from the total capacity addition is come from renewable sources. Indonesia having overall capacity addition throughout the new PDP is RE higher than fossil fuel. Malaysia is planning to retire about 915 gas power plant, while also adding up about 72 megawatts RE capacity. Philippines reported to install 28 megawatt hydro and also 21 megawatt solar power respectively. And then Singapore plan to have additional 300 megawatt capacity addition with solar gradually increase to meet its 1.5 gigawatt peak target. Thailand has a plan to install 1.7 gigawatt capacity addition, with majority come from the renewable sources, as well as having a decommissioning plan for coal power plants about 270 megawatt. Vietnam, with the current PDP8, they plan to install about 5.5 gigawatt capacity addition, with wind power accounted around 488 alone. Next slide, please. Moving towards the regional target, ASEAN still have 3 years to go, and then there is more pressure to achieve the regional target, especially on the RE share. RE share in TPS in 2019 shown ASEAN achieved 13.94% increase, about 0.04% compared to the 2018, while in the power sectors, ASEAN already achieved 28.7% in 2019. This is reported to the joint ministerial statement in AMEM last year in Brunei Darussalam. And also another target on energy intensity reduction achievement that ASEAN has in 2019 is about 21.8%, passing through the 2020 target for 20% EI reduction. 2022 could be a turning point for ASEAN region to keep up its energy transition efforts. It can be extend and also adopt in more broader energy efficiency measures, such as buildings, transportation, industrial sector, that can assist in lower energy usage and also lower emission, and then overall economic productivity can be in a cost-effective way. Next slide, please. 2022 is also a stage for long-awaited regulations and also the RCEP. For the long-awaited regulations, we have such as the RE regulations in Indonesia that's currently entering the national legislation program, expected to be enacted in 2022, while PDAP8 for Vietnam is hopefully it can be published in 2022 after seeking the inputs and comments for public since last year. The second one is about the RCEP. The kickoff is in 1st January 2022 as the biggest free trade agreement in worldwide. RCEP expected to bring more growth for its member, and then the deals among the members could leverage the investment, hopefully, for fueling the energy transition in the region. The next slide, please. Taking the helm from Brunei Darussalam, Cambodia Chairmanship 2022 is expected to prioritize the cleaner energy transition during its leadership. The biannual flagship publication of ASEAN Energy Outlook that will be endorsed in 2022, as mentioned by Executive Director of ASEAN Centre for Energy, is expected to able to shape the pathway on the potential long-term energy transition for ASEAN. The regional target will be expected to attract more energy investment to come, and then enabling the regulatory environment is one of the key to cultivate investment-friendly within the bloc. Next slide, please. If I may conclude all of my presentations, there are 5 points from my presentations. The first one is the proper fiscal mechanism by providing green economic recovery package is hold crucial role in bouncing back the economy in ASEAN member states. And then the second one is updated NDCs, bringing more ambitious strategies to cope with the climate pledge, proven with the signatories to Glasgow Climate Pact and also Global Call to Clean Power Statement for some member states. As countries moving towards the ambitious long-term goals, rapid development on the technology innovation is expected to happen in the next few years, starting by 2022. Newest PDP has shown the significant increase of renewable power generation in the next few years, and 2022, as I said before, might be a turning point to a greater RE penetration in power sector to achieve regional targets in 2025. Through the spirit of addressing challenges together, Cambodia intends to have a sense of togetherness and also encourage action-oriented collaboration to hold a crucial role resulting in the ASEAN economic community. So the cleaner energy transition is expected to be prioritized by Cambodia's chairmanship in 2022 this year. Next slide, please. I think that's conclude all of my presentations today. Looking forward for having a discussion with all the participants here. Back to Mr. Benny.
Right. Thank you very much, Rizky. I'm trying to digest how much the level of our positivity in 2022 on this, based on your outlook. Thank you very much for that, Rizky, and thank you very much for all of us colleagues who presented as a scene setting presentation before. And just continuing from that point, as you mentioned also what the Mr. mentioned earlier about the theme of the ASEAN chairmanship is addressing the challenge together. Then I have, all of us have a privilege to have 4 experts join with us to discuss and address this challenge together. So allow me to move to our next session on the panel discussion, where we will have 4 experts to share with us their thought and also to discuss the challenge that we will have in 2022. So as you can see in the screen, there is 4 panels to join with us, and as a starting point, I will introduce each of them so that we can hear more about themselves and the work that they're doing, and also their initial thought about the outlook in 2022. So I will start with my good friend first, Dr. Zulfikar Yernaidi. He is a team leader of the ASEAN Energy Outlook. So this is a flagship study of the ASEAN Centre for Energy. Dr. Zulfikar is also a senior officer at the Sustainable Energy, Renewable Energy, and Energy Efficiency Department in ACE, and also part of the ASEP member as well. So Dr. Zulfikar, if I can invite you to tell us a bit more about you and your work, particularly on the ASEAN Energy Outlook, and your short view about what's going on, in 2022. Dr. Zulfikar, please.
Yes, thank you very much, Benny, for the kind introductions. I hope you can hear me well. Yes, as introduced by Benny, I'm currently leading the development of the 7th ASEAN Energy Outlook, which is slated to be launched in this year ASEAN Ministers of Energy meeting, or AMEM, September 2022. And this is continuing with the previous editions of ASEAN Energy Outlook, in which we try to update the latest status of energy development and cooperation in the region, and also to try to derive the path of energy system in the next 10, 20, 30 years ahead. And we are currently working hard on that, and the forum that we have currently, and also the insights coming from our colleagues in the 2021 insights, as well as the outlook for 2022, are very critical insights for us in developing this ASEAN Energy Outlook. Other than this ASEAN Energy Outlook, we also produced various studies, including the insights, but also various thematic reports, including those of SDG, those of each and every APAC program areas, ranging from clean coal, renewable energy, energy efficiency, and others. And these are part of our role, of ACE role as a think tank catalyst and also a knowledge hub for the energy cooperation in the region. So moving for the main discussion, I think what would happen in 2022, especially in terms of energy sector. I think, as also mentioned by my colleague Rizky, one of the crucial thing in here is the pandemic itself. As we know, for the last 2 years, the energy system in the world and also in the regions defined basically from how well we are handling this pandemic. We are so surprised in 2020, and then all the energy demand supply disrupted go down. We have a negative growth of GDP, but also a negative growth of overall energy demand, but also probably surprisingly a better environment as a result of those lower energy use. And last year, I mean, in 2022, 2021, we see that the pandemic efforts are starting to produce its results. Vaccination starts to getting a better level, and the level of pandemic has been reduced quite a lot, even though we know that there are several recurrence of the Delta variants, Omicron variants, which resulting in we cannot really fully back to normal yet. But that, as we've seen for the whole 2021, resulting as well in energy sector's impact. We see the rebound of economy, we see the rebound of energy use, which somehow resulted in a very high energy prices. We saw the crisis of gas, oil in I think Q3 this year, especially in the Europe, and also we see that in Southeast Asia, including Indonesia, we also face some crisis due to the increase of coal. And then Indonesia, as part of the coal-producing countries, they prefer to export their coal instead of supplying the domestic needs. So such of things giving some sort of hints of what will happen in 2022. So it depends on how well we're handling the pandemic, then the energy will allow that. But as I mentioned, we are currently having a more comfort in handling in this pandemic. So I expect in 2022 we are having more comfortability in doing this new normal, let's say with that. So the economic growth will continue, energy demand will continue as well. And I think it's a good thing that we had this sort of small crisis the last year, meaning that the concern for energy security, for a long-term contracts of handling our primary supply, but also on how we need to find alternative solutions for our primary energy supply, so we do not have to worry about such issues anymore. And also mentioned by my colleague Monica, the oil and gas have having their own recovery. New projects is continuing to be built up, and hopefully in the next this year, the topic of a energy security for the midterm will be very important. And but at the same time, as also mentioned by my colleagues, the developments coming from last year COP26 and also from this year's RCEP will be a very important topics as well. From the COP26, of course, the energy transition will roll out a lot faster in this year. And I think there are several regulations like the PDPA for Vietnam and the Indonesian RE regulations, energy efficiency stuff from the CLM countries, and also Malaysia. I think they just released their own RE roadmap. So there are a lot of regulations coming in pushing this energy transition. And how well the countries derive those regulations into some sort of actions would be what will define this 2022, I think. And related to the RCEP, I'm no expert on the regulations, but I do understand that there are still few countries, like I do understand Indonesia hasn't ratified the regulation yet, and I think it remains to be seen how effective this this partnership into improving the market condition in the region. And I think the topic of energy is also one of the mentioned quite a lot in a lot of discussions, like when the US presidents and the China and also in the Japan, when they have discussions with ASEAN member states, they always mention the notions of sustainability energy as part of the main issue. So I think it also remains to be seen how such supposedly to be the biggest a trade partnership in the world can really affect in reality of the energy transition in the region. So I think that would be from me. Thank you.
Great. So thank you, Dr. Zulfikar. Again, that's Dr. Zulfikar is the team leader of the development of the 7 ASEAN Energy Outlook, which will be presented to the minister meeting, I think in September this year. Right. So next we have Jennifer Tai. She's a partner in the firm's deal advisory practice with experience in the large-scale infrastructure financial transaction with public and private sector in Asia. Furthermore, she's also the co-lead of the PricewaterhouseCoopers Southeast Asia infrastructure team. Has more than 15 years of experience in infrastructure, particularly in large-scale financial transaction and strategic advisory, supporting both public and private sector across the Asia region. I think Jennifer is also some question about how the private sector can be involved in energy sector. So Jennifer, thank you very much for joining. If I can invite you to tell us about you and your work and your initial thought about what will be happen in 2022. Right, Jennifer.
Thank you, Benny. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, thank you, Benny and the ASEAN Centre for Energy for inviting me to this panel. It's a great pleasure to be here to be sharing my thoughts. Yes, as Benny introduced, my name is Jennifer. I lead the infrastructure practice for PwC Singapore. We are a team of advisors who helped clients in terms of evaluating investment opportunities and advising on transactions relating to infrastructure types of investments. And it ranges from power utilities, renewables included, of course, to transport and even city development. Now, on the topic of energy transition, during the last 18 months, we have advised on a number of renewable energy transactions in the region. And these transactions include greenfield and brownfield transactions, and they range from projects like floating solar in Singapore to ground-mounted solar portfolio in the region, and even rooftop solar projects. So we can see that clearly solar type of transaction has been on the rise in the last 18 months. Now, wind type of renewable energy project is also on the increase, but the number of transactions in the region hasn't been as much as solar. Now, investors in the sectors include renewable energy developers, also include actually strategic investors pivoting from traditional solar fossil fuel projects into renewable energy, and even international large-scale infrastructure funds. In the last 12 months, we've seen a lot of fundraising, capital raising happening in the market. And that's I saw a question in the Q&A about how private sector can contribute to the energy transition. I think the capital raised by notable renewable energy developers like Sembcorp from Singapore, ASEAN Energy from Philippines are a key source of capital for renewable energy development and energy transition. Each of them have raised more than $1 billion in renewable energy focused capital. Now, 2022 will be a year we see some of these capital being deployed. On top of these developers, we also see global infrastructure funds like I2, KKR, Partners Group, completing funding rounds for Asia, and with some of these funds focused on infrastructure and renewable energy. I think close to 81 billion was raised globally in the first 3 quarters of 2021, and 16 billion of these $16 billion of these were actually dedicated to Asia Pacific investments. This is very interesting because 61% of the funds raised, 61% of the $81 billion raised in the first 3 quarters of 2021 is focused on renewable energy projects. So you can see the scale of capital that is in the market for renewable energy investment. Now, the final numbers for 2021 is not out yet, but fund managers around the globe is expecting it to be a record year. Now, together with the funds raised in 2019 and 2020, the 2022 is expected to be a year where fund managers and project developers, renewable energy developers will be looking at deploying these funds. And we are already seeing some of these participation in greenfield and brownfield transactions. One interesting observation for 2021 would be the interest played by European utilities in Southeast Asia. EDF has indicated interest to participate in Singapore government's electricity import tender. EDPR is in the process of completing $1 billion investment in SunSeap, which is a regional, a Singapore homegrown regional renewable energy platform. These are all very encouraging trends for ASEAN's renewable energy. Another interesting trend I think we'll see is that the demand for renewable energy is going to increase with the demand for digitalization. So all of us, COVID has turned all of us into e-commerce and video conferencing experts. And we hear earlier on from our ACE colleague that the demand for residential energy has increased. Now, these changes in lifestyle and work habits and the need for digitalization and data storage is going to drive a lot of the data center investment in the region. Data center is known to consume a lot of electricity, both for cooling and for data storage and maintenance. And if they continue to run on non-green, brown electricity, the gap between the target set by the government and their net zero target by 2050 is going to widen. So we will see a lot of green data centers being considered as part of the development in terms of in the digital space. Some of the funds raised by the global infrastructure funds will go into some of these data center development as well. We'll see electric vehicles, battery, and smart grid technology also on the forefront of some of the interesting area that some of these capital will be deployed into. And I think last but not least, I think I'm particularly interested in seeing how the announcement by the Singapore government to start importing electricity from the region actually helps to give the ASEAN power grid a nudge forward in terms of a regional trading platform being formed. Yeah, I think 2022 is going to be an interesting year for players in the sector. Thank you, Benny.
Thank you, Jennifer. I do agree. I mean, I'm also excited to hear what would be happen on that. I do remember the LTMS, which is also initiated by Singapore, which eventually is really pushing the ASEAN power grid. So this development is really exciting. Well, thank you, Jennifer. Then now allow me to move to Dr. Fong Sok, the head of Environment Division, Assistant Director of the Sustainable Development Directorate, the ASEAN Socio-Cultural Community Department from the ASEAN Secretariat. He has more than 20 years global environment compliance and governance experience, including in-depth knowledge and strategic environmental planning, environmental diplomacy, and operation control of environmental management system. I think the energy and climate change can't be separated. So we are very, very glad to have Dr. Fong Sok to join with us this afternoon. So Dr. Fong Sok, if I can invite you to give your initial introduction about you and the world and your initial thought about 2022. Dr. Fong Sok, please.
Thank you very much, Benny. I think it's well introduction from your side, and thank you for the ACE for giving me the opportunity to reflect. I mean, first of all, I to share with you all that I'm not really energy expert, no economic expert or trade expert, but I would like to share from another lens that that we need to consider for the social environmental issue from the 2022 onward, in considering the two aspects that is important in your question about the ASEP and the also the COP26 decision. I mean, as you may have aware, I mean, the ASEP itself, I mean, it's not really, I mean, one of the good in terms of regional trading deal, but I mean, when it comes to social environmental safeguard, I mean, I may say that it's not really strong enough. And that is really impact for the social environmental safeguard aspect. Of course, the fuel energy is one of the material have been identified in the chapter 3, article 3.10, which is about the key material that need to be discussed in the trade agreement. So in this regard, I mean, this is very obvious for the energy sector, that is whether or not you consider the social environmental issue as well as the climate change, both mitigation and adaptation. On top of that, I mean, for the ASEP itself, I mean, one of the loose things says about the article 6.8 about conformity assessment procedure, which is highlight a little bit about the element of the environment and social factor, which is not strong enough in the way of contribute to the climate change and the social environmental safeguard per se. So while the chapter 7 itself is just a trade remedy rather than that is about ASEP, a safeguard sort of measure. So it's just about trade itself rather about social environmental safeguard. Who should be taking care of that? That's a really question. And also energy sector, one of the main thing in that sort of trade coordination, trade negotiation, and so on. So with that, this the key point that I think the ACE and also the partner may wish to consider as a part of inclusive and also sustainable sort of development of energy sector. So the second point I would like to highlight on the COP26 decision. I think the COP26 decision is really creates some challenge and opportunity very clear. The opportunity, the challenge, of course, you know, we have to do more with the adaptation and mitigation and try to reduce, I mean, the emission as much as we can. That is the way the country, I mean, also recognized by other speakers. The AMA already committed to certain level of NDC for their respective country. But that also create opportunity in terms of, you know, it's climate financing and so on. And that is a great opportunity for the, you know, for the AMS to look at that sort of opportunity. I just would like to give one of the specific opportunity about long-term climate financing. I mean, of course, the developed country will contribute somehow, but I mean, specifically for our ASEAN region at the sideline of COP26, EU and Team Europe have earmarked additional 780 million euro to support ASEAN Green Recovery Platform on top of existing of 7 billion investment under the ASEAN Catalytic Green Finance Facility managed by ADB. So this creates a great opportunity. Of course, energy efficiency and renewable energy is a part of that green ASEAN Green Recovery Platform. So I think if a member state and the sector involved, it really make use of this opportunity. This creates some good thing to move forward. And also, I mean, the early point, one of our colleagues just mentioned about the global coal to clean power transition statement. This is not only statement, but also it can be also create some opportunity. I mean, such as the energy transition mechanism that, you know, partnership with ADB that may create some kind of best practices to involving also the cost, the phasing out coal and so on, and the clean technology. So I think this is the opportunity from the COP26 itself. So it's a matter of, you know, not the AMS not only committed, but also need to look at the opportunity, how can improve. With that, I would like to emphasize two important, as my third point, on the two important documents from environment sector that have been prepared. One, the state of climate change report that recently just published, and some of you may also involved in the launching of the state of climate change report. This state of climate change report is assess the situation of the climate change issue, both in mitigation and adaptation in our region, and one of the concern sector, which is about environment, climate change, the energy sector. With that, I mean, the statement from the finding is clear: to achieve the net zero emission or decarbonize sort of society, the long-term strategy, the long-term energy intensity improvement and decarbonization of energy system are required. So this involves the transformation and the transformative action of the country and the sector for both energy, look at energy demand and energy supply side, by reducing energy intensity and emission intensity. So how to do that? I think it's a lot of questions. I mean, some of you elaborate already about technical sort of aspect, but I mean, look from another second product of environment sector. We also do the climate need finance assessment in collaboration with OCC UNFCCC based in Bangkok. So it's clearly have been identified some of the key need in our region. And I just would like to highlight clear from that assessment said that, I mean, a lot of funds have been mobilized and used for the climate related project and program in ASEAN region, which is not simple. It go to about 3.2 billion per year from 2013 to 2017. So this significant amount, but then, you know what? The finding also confirmed that nearly all identify climate finance need to support their national priority for climate are needed for the target and the system support. One, to cope with the climate change risk. Second, to establish climate resilient development scheme. Third, to implement climate action plan that responsive to particular need and priority for catalyst and achieve mitigation and the NDC target. So with that, I mean, the report have clearly identified that climate finance need for our region, just for NDC alone, it's required 422.16 billion up to 2030. That is the lump sum, but you can divide by each year, it still need a lot of financial support, and mostly for mitigation, because so far mitigation is one of the key issue, which is account for 293 billion US dollar. So with that, this is about the climate financing that we need to tap on the resource available as the opportunity from the COP26. And also with that, I think I would like to highlight also the climate financing here. It's really important to bear in mind. I mean, the financial is still matters. Second thing, from the finding of the state of climate change report, it clearly the technology transfer, the clean technology, it's really important to look at. So I know all of you look at that already, but I mean the renewable energy efficiency and the optimization of the demand side of energy, it's really necessary. So I would like to end my point here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fong So, and congratulations as well for the ASEAN Centre report on the climate change. I think it's become one of major reference for the peoples in the region to understand about the situation and where we are going with the climate change directive. Thank you, Dr. Fong. So next, I would like to invite our next expert, Dr. Aloysius Joko Purwanto, the senior energy economist from the Economic Research Institute for the ASEAN and East Asia or area. So a bit introduction, Dr. Joko obtained his doctorate degree in economic science from University Lyon in France. And then he has experience as well before on Europe at the European Commission Joint Research Centers in Spain, and also transport and mobility 11 in Belgium for almost 10 years as a senior researcher. So Dr. Joko, I'll call it, if I can also invite you to tell us a bit about you, about area, and your initial thought about 2022.
Thank you so much, Pa Benny, for the introduction. Yes, I'm an energy economist at the Economic Research Institute for ASEAN and East Asia, and we are a think tank in the ASEAN and East Asian nations region, and we would like to contribute to work in the policy making in energy sector. And so far, my work has been quite a lot in the development of energy outlook and saving potentials in ASEAN countries, which is one of the main fair publication of area, and we are closely collaborating with the ACE to calibrate the results and then to have like a coherent result of both studies, and we are complementing each other. And I'm doing some studies also in the electrification of mobility and the use of biofuel, as well as currently in the study of the roadmap for the ASEAN countries to reach net zero emissions, together with the Institute of Energy Economics Japan. So what will happen in 2022? I guess it is quite difficult to say what will happen, because there are things that we can do and things that will escape from our hands, like the one that we have experienced during the last 1 to 2 years in this pandemic situation, that we face this drop in the energy prices, and especially oil. And at some point, we thought that it is very important for ASEAN countries to take advantage of that event. For example, to scrap the fossil fuel subsidy. But yeah, we need to stock take what happened in the last 2 years, what kind of policy have been brought down by the countries, and now oil price has been going back and strongly. And now we are found at around 75 USD per barrel. And then we need also to take stock what happened also, for example, in the oil stockpiling. Have ASEAN countries take advantage of that price drop in oil and do quite strategic movement in the energy security. But we still have this green stimulus to help the countries to recover from the pandemic, and I think those are the things that we can do. I just would like to deliver here some of my points, and I agree with previous presentation from Mr. Muhammad Rizky that 2022 will be an interesting year, a year of turning point, and also Dr. Zulfikar is that mentioned that how well we will do in 2022 will depend on how we will deal with the Omicron variant of COVID. I think that that one thing that I would like to emphasize here is that in the 2022 we will be seeing how good we'll make use of our RCEP to deal with our climate change or net zero pledge on carbon neutrality target. I completely agree with Dr. Wong that said that RCEP is a bit natural with regard to climate change requirement, with regard to energy transition. So that those are things that we should discuss together, and that we should work on to improve the optimization of the use of RCEP to help us to accelerate energy transition. The first thing that are sure is that RCEP, with its single rule of origin, will help a lot in reducing the cost of RE-related power generation and service and commodities. And that are the things that we should take into account as one of the advantages, and we should make use of. And then also that the liberalization of market, the free movement of goods and and communities should be oriented towards, as well as towards the increase of competitiveness of ASEAN countries, in particular in terms of a global value chain. In terms of renewable energy, we should use this kind of opportunity to diversify, for example, the supply chain of the technology of the commodities and service in relation to the renewable energy. We know that the technology in relation to solar power or wind power are concentrated by several countries in East Asia, such as Japan, North Korea, and we would like also to have and China, and we would like to be able to diversify the supply chain in the renewable energy related technologies with the use of RCEP. And I think that is an opportunity, as well as within the ASEAN region, we can also start to think about how to trade, for example, biomass. Biomass would be used by many countries in ASEAN to use in power generation, to be mixed with coal, to reduce our dependency on coal, and as well not to forget about the possibility of trading biofuel within ASEAN countries. As we know, for example, that Indonesia can produce a lot of biodiesel, while Thailand can produce a lot of bioethanol. At the same time, the need for bioethanol in Indonesia is big, while Thailand has quite some demand in the use of diesel. And the other thing is that RCEP cooperation between RCEP countries need to be also utilized to improve the harmonization of education standards, for example, and that will bring us to the better movement of skilled labor, suitable graduates, especially in terms of sectors that relate to renewable energy goods and service provision. And not to underestimate is also the role of RCEP that can be brought into the maximizing or optimizing the ASEAN power grid. And ASEAN power grid would be roles will be optimized when we have, at the end of the day, a single electricity trade market between ASEAN countries. And I think we should make use of RCEP in that sense. And at the end, stimulus package should also be brought to be oriented to build this cross-border electricity market and supply and demand and trade. And at the end, what we will see also in the 2022 is that we can expect that a lot of alliances will be developed. I mean, a lot of talks and discussion that will bring us to more actions. For example, to lead to the achievement of our carbon neutrality pledges, we can expect that more talk, more discussion, more alliances will be built in terms of CCUS, in terms of adoption of hydrogen, ammonia, related technologies and resources. And ASEAN countries, for example, and then also countries in RCEP, we have, for some countries, advantages in terms of those development, and then in some other countries have many feedstock or raw material to supply that kind of market. And we can expect also that 2022 will be a very interesting year because of the G20 Indonesia presidencies that has put energy transition explicitly as one of its main pillars. I think I'll stop here. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Joko. Yes, indeed, the last point on Indonesia presidency on G20, Indonesia is major countries in this region that's helping the energy transition as well. So it's a very critical point as well. So we hear all from the introductory remark from all of our experts, and then we will move to more free flow discussion with all our experts. So inviting all of our experts to turn on your video for the discussion. And we have a lot of result in 2022, the thought, but if you don't mind, allow me to go back a bit in 2021. So, I mean, it's still pandemic, and it was pandemic, 2020, and then 2021. And I do hope that 2022 is not. But well, what 2021 has taught us about the energy transition in this region. I do remember that 2020 we released a survey. People said that they're shifting their mind about the energy transition and that with dealing with the COVID. 2021. So, how do you see that? How the 2021 has taught us about this energy transition? Are we still drowning uncertainty, or if Dr. Zulfikar is that word, we're already on the comfort zones to deal with that. So can I invite our panelists to share their views? So we can start. Jennifer, if I can start with you to share your view.
Sure. Thanks, Benny. So I think 2021, one of the biggest lessons, at least for myself and my takeaway, is that it has really taught us that energy transition is to be planned, right? And the government's policy and direction plays a very big role in planning for this energy transition. And we have seen how blackouts and brownouts were impacting countries because the population started coming out from a lockdown and resuming economic activity. And the assumption was that it will not be, that the renewable energy, investment had caught up and should be able to meet those demands. But we realized that it's actually not the case, right? We are still very much dependent on fossil fuel. Now, if government in the region is serious about energy transition, then it needs to take a very pragmatic view in terms of planning on how they transition their baseload electricity supply going forward. And that's important to go hand in hand with upgrading of power grid and to meet those energy transition plans. I think the other thing which 2021 taught us is definitely there is still a lot of uncertainty in terms of economic recovery. We are kind of in a state where we always need to be ready for a possible fourth or fifth wave, and we don't know how many more there is. But I think the digital economy in a lot of countries needs to develop as a result of that, to give the economy a lot more resilient when social distancing is required to keep the population or the healthcare system in a sustainable state.
Thank you, Jennifer. If I can also invite Dr. Zulfikar to share your views. So, who are the loser or winner during this 2021, from your point of view?
Yeah, it's kind of difficult to say the loser and the winner, but I think it's quite clear to see that there is some sort of shift of energy demand, as mentioned by Jennifer, that we are moving a lot now in the residential sector, less from transportation and commercial, for example. And also we noted that there was an original attempt to cut a lot of projects related to oil and gas, and then it's some sort of a back. And I think I'll just focus more on what we can learn from those experiences. I think one thing that I just want to add, also building upon from Jennifer's comment, is that with the digitalizations being a lot more important in the future, and also a lot of demand will be centered in residential, but probably also in commercial, like, with all of these co-working spaces might become more common instead of like centralized offices in the future. I think the idea of this demand side management, for example, the idea of having a prosumer on how the residential is not only energy consumer but also producing their own electricity. And with that, the needs of having a better grid, more flexible and smarter grid will be, I think, very important. So in short, how we can utilize this new trend of digitalization into advancing and modernizing our energy system, which in turn later will support the energy transition, being more flexible, meaning that we can add a lot more variable renewable energy. Having a better understanding of energy pattern will allow us to accelerate our efforts in energy efficiency. I mean, we can save a lot more energy by knowing what kind of appliances that use a lot of energy, for example. These data, probably sharing our experience in ASEAN Energy Outlook is what is very crucial in us. So, and currently a bit of lacking, on our data. And utilizing this utilization to build a lot of data for us to be able to analyze it and develop, design a database policy, I think would be very important for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Zulfikar. And 2021 is also, while we are struggling with the pandemic, is also a year where we have monumental event like COP26. But still a lot of discussion. It's going to be, I do remember there is some cartoon people, and then there is a wave of COVID-19. But then the bigger wave is a climate change. So I'm not sure whether any panelists have seen that. But I think there is a clash, or there is some interaction between COVID pandemic issue, economic issue, and the climate change issue that's going to be. So if I can turn it to Dr. Fong Sok, that's going to be, from your point of view, it's going to be it's going to be what the 2021 has also taught us about that energy climate nexus issue. That is it. Should we talk it separately, or is it going to be because eventually it's but it can be seen as a momentum to boost the climate change, but it's also we have a lot of opposite view on that, Dr. Fong Sok.
Thank you, Benny. I think for your question, I think it's quite challenging to answer. But I mean, 2021. I think the year of, if I say from environment sector, I think the year of a bit peaceful from environment sector, okay, and the year of opportunity, really 2021. So with that year of opportunity, we make a lot of progress in terms of setting up enabling condition. The peaceful from environment allow us to accelerate some our action preparation toward the success for upcoming challenge when the business become usual or intensify in one way or another. I think the rebound effect of economic of the COVID. So I think a lot of development from environment sector. I can say, two documents I already highlight earlier about the state of climate change report and the need-based climate financing for ASEAN region, but also, the long-term strategy, the LTA sort of development. This is the way we try to introduce to the member state, and also some of the member state already developed this LTS this to address the NDC of their respective country. So this to measure what is achievable, measurable, and success in their capacity. So, and also a number of progress also with regard to the policy and the MOV and carbon sort of price and market. That's the way also establish piloting and also dealing with the private sector sort of facility in order to accelerate, because everyone is part of solution. It cannot be blamed one another. I think private sector take a lot of big share as well. And also among the capacity building that's ongoing as the way how we build and work with the private sector. About the government and the other sector can work together. And the last important element is about the cross-sectoral coordination, because there's so low kind of sector working alone. Let's say environment and climate change sector. So far, we try to advocate and so on, provide the ASEAN joint statement on climate change. But it will not go far enough unless we work with economic sector, energy sector, transport, and so on and so forth, as well as with the other forest and for the land use and forest cover chain. So this is the way we have prepared for the 2021. And then the 2022, this is an opportunity. And also during the 2021 ASEAN Chairmanship of Brunei, I mean, two important things that we may need to note. It's about ASEAN Youth Program, ASEAN Youth Action Program, which is important to promote youth leadership in the climate action. So this is the way we generate sort of public voice and also involvement in dealing with climate change. With that, also Brunei established the ASEAN Centre for Climate Change. This is to facilitate the dialogue and discussion, as well as to discuss the advanced technology, share solution, or nature-based solution, and so on for ASEAN region. So this is the way I said that we create a lot of enabling condition that we hope that 2022 onward will allow us to proceed more robust climate action in coordination with all development sector. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fong Sok. Because you highlighting about the cross sectors and then come the issue, especially on the energy and economic. So I turn to Dr. Joko. That's gonna be, I mean, it's gonna be 2021. But it seems like maybe it's not peaceful between energy and economic, because we have heard a lot of energy crisis issue, and then the pricing is skyrocketing everywhere. And most of it in Europe, a country in US, but it's starting to also happen in this region. So can you share more on your views about 2021, what you thought us on this energy economic perspective, Dr. Joko?
Yes, thank you, Pak Benny. Yes, indeed, my lesson that I took from 2021 is that green recovery is not that easy. I mean, like it was first marked by a low drop in the oil price, and then at the same time to recover greenly, because renewable energy cost has become at some point not that competitive. What I saw as a green recovery movement that happened in 2021 since 2020 is the investment on the digitalization. I guess that is the thing that we should hold and continue, because pandemic, we can see it as a giant or colossal social digitalization experiment that we have undergone, and at some point we survive. And I guess we should hang on to that movement to digitalization, and yeah, we should continue that by formalizing that kind of thing that happened, like working from home, and then distance or remote meeting, and then as well like bringing the technology that we have in digitalization into energy transition, such as starting to build a smart grid development in ASEAN. And and you have also mentioned the crisis of energy, and that is the second thing that I would like to take as my lesson learned from the 2021 is that energy transition is not either that easy. We have seen that China and European countries, they have been to the energy crisis because of the shortage of coal and other fossil fuels, while their economic activities started at some point to rebound at unpredicted pace. So that we need, of course, then to balance the pace or the speed of our CO2 reduction with the energy security. How do we? How can we do that? Is of course, to make a smart transition. It means that we should keep our ambition, our pledge, as ambitious as possible. Yeah, not to get trapped by our conventional short-term affordability concern that has hindered ASEAN renewable energy adoption so slowly, and we need to secure first the green financing, of course. And at the same point, as I come back to my my previous intervention, is that we need to make use of RCEP, RCEP to secure our energy supply. I think that's my point. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Joko, and thank you all of the audience who share your question in the Q&A features. Many of it is already being responded by our experts. But if I may take one question from Rusaya Ibrahim Tanko. So this is asking about the government and forum worldwide have already recognized the benefit of procurement and contracting transparency in selective sectors. So given the enormous fund being raised, Jennifer mentioned about $1 billion on board right now. So is the transparency is being considered as an option to enable open competition and open market? $1 billion, I must say yes, but let us, our expert, Jennifer, if I can circle it back to you on this question.
Sure. Thanks, Benny. I think definitely, I think transparency in terms of procurement is one thing which private sector is looking for. I think on top of transparency in terms of procurement, I think the regulatory environment is very important in terms of private sector's investment. Now, yes, there are a lot of capital out there, but these capital are looking for quality projects that will allow them to make the returns that they want to make from a private sector perspective as well. So, private sector capital comes with a cost. Now, it's important for government to set up a enabling environment for this private sector to deploy their funds. Transparency is important. Procurement process is very important for them. But a tariff structure that supports renewable energy investment is equally important. Now, if we look at Vietnam, right, between 2018 to the more recent years, you see a big boom in the renewable energy investment. Now, a lot of that got to do with the actually fit-in tariff regime in Vietnam, which a lot of private sector investors were taking advantage of. Now, that favorable fit-in tariff regime is very attractive to a lot of private sector investors. Now, that regime is coming to an end, and you see that, or has already come to an end in solar. You see that the private sector sort of sentiment towards continuing investment in Vietnam is a bit, has wavered slightly because there's uncertainty in terms of what's going to happen next, right? Because if you're transitioning from one regime to another, you're going from fit-in tariff to now auction basis, then the tariff that comes out of auction will create uncertainty for investors. It will take a while for investors to sort of understand the market and where the market is again and calibrate their expectation of returns for the certain jurisdiction. And I think that that kind of enabling tariff regime needs to happen in a lot of ASEAN countries, right? In order for investors to have that confidence to direct their capital into the country. A lot of private sector investors today, where there is no clear fit-in tariff regimes, they are looking for strong off-takers to offtake renewable energy from them, right? And some of these off-takers could be large-scale manufacturing plants or industrial parks that requires green energy, or even data centers, right? Data centers is actually one of the biggest customers for some of these renewable energy developers going forward. So I think yes, there's capital out there, but I think the capital is also looking for reasonable returns that helps them in the deployment.
Thank you, Jennifer. If I can also invite Dr. Zulfikar on that question. But I would like also connect it with the next question, Dr. Zulfikar, because we have a question from Bong Vergara. Is there a specific regional body or program designed to on-ramp private sector mobilization involvement in ASEAN decarbonization effort? If yes, which is it ACE is taking that role or others? So Dr. Zulfikar, I can pass it to you.
Yes, I think the first is to answer the first question. I do agree what you mentioned is that private sector from our discussions mostly very interested on the transparency, but also on the clarity and consistency of the policy itself. So, like we've seen, like for Indonesia, when the renewable energy policies are changing, and then we are waiting for the new policies, but it's not coming. That sends a not so good signal to the players. And meanwhile, in the Vietnam case, when the policy itself is quite fixed, and it's, although they have a very short deadline actually, but they all of the private sector are actually flocking to that and created the boom that we've seen for the last 2 years. So I think that will be a very crucial lesson in having this the clarity, but also consistency of policies moving forward. And to answer the second question, I actually tried to answer the questions online with the chat. And there are various initiatives out there, you know, like energy transition partnerships. There are some others coming from the philanthropy, etc. But I think what the one that really collects all the private sector, for example, forgive me if it is due to my ignorance, but I don't really see some sort of mechanism that really works currently. And I think, as you mentioned, one of the roles of ASEAN Centre for Energy is as a catalyst, and we haven't really deal much on the financing sector, but we actually do heard quite a lot from the ASEAN member states on what will be the needs of energy investment moving forward. We talk a lot with the investors, we talk a lot with the academics, and I think moving towards the private sector will be what ASEAN Centre for Energy need to move forward. And I think the support from our partners, including ASEAN Secretariat, the area, and also PwC and other experts will be very crucial so that we can somehow together really pull up all of this capital mentioned by Jen before, including those from the private sector, which probably we haven't heard of yet because there is no a platform for them to really channel their intentions of moving towards and support the energy decarbonization of the region. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Zulfikar. So, Dr. Fong Sok, that previously you mentioned a number of schemes like ASEAN Green Funds, there is also investment. So, is it also ASEAN Secretariat is taking a role to mobilizing this funding? Or maybe it's just another question, if this private sector would like to engage, to be involving, is ASEAN Secretariat is the right place for them to reach out and to be involved on this effort, Dr. Fong Sok?
Yes, I think as you may have noted, I mean, the ASEAN Secretariat play important role in terms of coordination, communication to various sort of stakeholder. And so that can be looked at in any sort of ASEAN member state or any particular sector. I think ASEAN Secretariat, I mean, we coordinate among ourselves in terms of from division to division, and then the way we can reach out to sector as well as to the partner. So the partner here involve also, you know, the different sort of agency, the NGO, private sector, as well as the think tank, in order to accelerate this sort of you know, subject matter. I mean, one of the thing that we also discussed with a number of private sector about you know, the environment and social safeguard on the trade aspect that is under the US sort of support. So this we try to provide a platform of coordination and communication. Of course, we may not be able to capture 100% whoever are the player. That's why, I mean, we keep engaging and working with all of you. And now, I mean, my question right now, we all need to keep work together as the way we go. And it's not a sector solo process. So with that, this is the ASEAN Secretariat Center business that we try to connect, try to coordinate and facilitate with all the key player and actor. So in the base of our knowledge and skill. So I think this is the entry point, and that's why many partner, many sort of NGO and also UN agency come and talk to us and explore further, because we really know where it's the connecting point. So we try to liaise and connect. And it's not mean that everything we have to do by ourselves. No, but we know who doing what, because we have a number of exercise and mapping exercise, and we know who are the key player who doing what in what time. So that is one of the most important things. Second thing that ASEAN Secretariat it's doing a number of things, which is about the kind of pilot and testing in the way of building capacity and testing the water, what work and what do not work. And with that is the way we can propose something to advance further with the champion or leadership of member state or partner for formulation such a guideline, a policy, and so on. So, for example, the MOV study and the private sector facility, this is with the leadership of Singapore, and facilitate to understand to what extent the member state and the private sector accept a certain level of the market and the carbon price that can be set for the ASEAN region. So, of course, I mean, a number of countries already doing things like Singapore carbon tax already apply, Indonesia already doing that, and also Thailand start the pilot and quite advanced stage, and Malaysia also in that sort of direction. So with that, I think this is the way we try to coordinate, build capacity, test the ground, and also join hands to coordinate and develop such a policy coordination. So that is my point. Thank you.
Hey, thank you very much, Dr. Fong. So now if we move to 2022, if I may ask the view from the expert about 2022, there is also jokes that I read that 2022 can be read as 2022. So we are experiencing what happened in 2020 before. So how do you see the 2022? I mean, it's going to be a response about the energy crisis before. It seems like it's starting to be happen in this region. I mean, Singapore, it's not exactly the, I mean, we can have a debate about the definition of the energy crisis, but we see the spike on the pricing, there's some concern on supply and demand. So this 2022 will be a peaceful year. That's as Dr. Fong Sok mentioned, 2021 is quite a peaceful year for the environment progress. For the energy, so how do you see that? If I can get a view from all of our experts, if I might start again with Jennifer to share your views.
Thank you, Benny. I am an optimist, to be honest, that someone asked me what's my wish for 2022. I said the end of COVID. So I truly hoped 2022 will not be, like you say, 2022. But I think I think, you know, some of the results or the outcome from COP26 it's been quite encouraging from my perspective, especially, you know, just now I talked about, you know, all the private sector funds being raised. Some of the financial institutions, in fact, 400 of them, right, have signed up to net zero targets to be met by 2030. Now that requires these financial institutions, which are controlling over $130 trillion in assets, to be reviewing the portfolio that they currently invest in, and how they continue to decarbonize and set a pathway to 2030 net zero target. So that's very exciting, because that is really directing, helping to direct a lot of these capital away from fossil fuel into greener energy investments. So I think it is a year I would like to see how some of these financial institutions continue to plan and put in place action plans to reach the 2030 net zero goal, and how that can significantly impact the financial resources being directed into non-fossil fuel energy investments.
Thank you, Jennifer. If I guess just ask one more question, Jennifer, that between COP26 and RCEP, if this two things is also fully considered by the financial institution in this region?
I would say RCEP has been negotiated over a long period of time. And some of the energy transition considerations I had hoped to be featured within RCEP probably did not feature that strongly. In fact, I would have hoped that electricity trading, for example, in the region had been one that could really be pushed forward if it had been one big consideration within RCEP, but it's not really a big feature. But it remains to be seen in terms of implementation. I think that will be something that we will see in 2022. From a financial institution perspective, I think they definitely will be looking at RCEP and seeing how that helped them in terms of directing their investment from a trade perspective.
Okay, thank you. So we have one positive from Jennifer. Dr. Zulfikar, are you sharing the same view or have a different opinion?
Yeah, I start with the first hope that the COVID-19 will be done. I don't know. I actually this morning I forced my son to get his COVID-19 vaccination and ended up with 30 minutes tantrum and another hour driving around to make him calm down. And I think that's the level of effort basically that we are currently doing to push COVID-19 away. And I said last year I will be cautiously optimistic, but I think I will have to say again this year, hopefully not for 2020, 2023 again. But as you know, this Omicron variant is a bad news globally, and luckily in Southeast Asia it's not as bad as probably expected. And as I mentioned before, this normal life that we might have will depend 100% on how well we manage this pandemic. But in addition to that, we still need to move forward. And that's also being realized by countries in the region. We still need to grow our economy. We still need to pursue our commitments to COP26, to international community. And with that being said, I think the leadership of, in the region perspective, the leadership of Cambodia in having this the togetherness as the keyword would be very important on how we as a region collaborate in addressing the issues, both in the health issues, but also in the energy transition issues, and also with our key partners, including those that are part of the RCEP, the +3, in Australia and others. How well we utilize these collaborations, also with private sector, as mentioned by Jen, will define on how we are progressing in this 2022. So I'm cautiously optimistic. There are a lot of efforts and homeworks basically that we need to do to really move 2022 forward compared to the last year, both in terms of energy transition, but also in terms of environment sustainability. So yeah, cautiously optimistic.
Okay. So if I can move to Dr. Fong Sok, that's your final thought about 2022, Dr. Fong Sok.
I think I'm also share the view like the previous speaker. I think I'm very optimistic also for 2022. Of course, we still need time to go through this sort of reconfiguration our business because a number of preparation, number of things that ready, but also we need to reinsert our operation into the real life business. It must be some challenging ahead as well. So I think with that, I think the early point that you mentioned about the transparency here is not only trade and business, but also climate change. Also, the transparency have been spelled out is one of the most important as a decision of the COP26. Also, the recommendation in the State of Climate Change report of ASEAN, this is the important element. If you not disclose well the information, that cannot be shared as a engagement process with other stakeholders and actors. So the transparency, it's a really matter. So to what extent each individual can be transparent to ourselves in terms of our business operation and engagement. So now it's question, and then later on about from the recommendation point out, then the transformative action that need to do. And the transformative action here, what it means that involvement of all innovative solution and technology plus working together. That's the way ASEAN Chairmanship 2022 acts, addressing challenge together. This is the way. But I mean, to what extent we can do together in the limited of the pandemic situation, and I mean the reconfiguration and competition among other, which is about the ASEP, because the mechanism and the process for the social environmental safeguard is not strong enough. So for this reason, we believe the consultation engagement, the RCE and other partners that are doing today, we'll keep doing that. This is the way we can keep each other informed and learn from each other how we do sort of inclusive sort of development in the sustainable manner. Thank you very much, Benny.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fong. So last not least, Dr. Lucius Joko, please don't tell us about we're going to have an energy crisis. So share your positive views.
Yes, thank you, Pak Benny. I think just to get again to what will happen in 2022, in my opinion, it will be an agitating year, but in positive term, so that we will see a lot of exciting things happen in the area of energy transitions. The first one is not that related, but very important is the initiation of RCEP, and we will experience lively what will happen in the trade between countries and the exchange of goods and commodities and services. And the second thing is that many renewable energy related projects should resume again this year. Those are so many projects that has been delayed of 1 year or two, and I think that the investment in the renewable energy will rebound this year, and it should rebound with the end of hopefully the end of the pandemic situation. And of course, we will see also countries start to implement what they have been updated in terms of their pledge on climate change. And for Indonesians in Indonesia, we will be excited to see how carbon tax will be implemented in Indonesia, and how government will smartly decide which sector, energy sector to start with, and how they will scrap the subsidy. And finally, it is also very interesting to see what will happen in the green financing with the Asian taxonomy, for example. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Joko, and all of our experts for sharing your thought and view about the expectation in 2022 on the energy transition in the region. I think everyone's also very much enjoy. My personal view, if we only talking about from the power sector perspective, I'm very much happy if 2022 is 2022, because in 2020, the ASEAN, based on our database, is installed 82% renewable energy from all of the new installed capacity in 2020. So it's quite a massive record for ASEAN, when ASEAN from the new installed capacity in 2020, 82% was coming from renewable energy. So if that is 2022, so I'm happy to go with that, but it's not with all of this pandemic. So time is up. That's gonna be it's a very exciting discussion. I'd like to thank you, Jennifer, Dr. Zulfikas, Dr. Fongsok, and also Dr. Alisius Chukupurnamo for your valuable time, valuable talk. Thank you very much for all of you, and wishing all the best in 2022 for all of you, and looking for our collaboration again. And I pass back to our MC, Ms. Gabriela Yananto. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Mr. Benny, for the excellent moderation. And thank you to all speakers, presenters, and panelists for sharing your knowledge and experience with us today. I would also like to give special thanks to His Excellency Mr. Suisem for giving such a great speech. We really appreciate the valuable time and effort from all speakers in contributing to the success of this forum. Also, thank you to all participants for joining the first ever ASEAN Energy Outlook Forum today. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact us at secretariat@aseanenergy.org, or you can reach us through our website, aseanenergy.org. I see in the chat box that so many of you have asked about the presentation materials delivered by our ACE colleagues earlier. So let me give you the great news. We have uploaded all presentation materials in our website and they are free to be downloaded. The survey result that was presented earlier was conducted from mid-December 2021 until early January 2022. I can assure you that this is a one-of-a-kind survey in regional level. So download the analytics now for your reference. The other two presentations on 2021 Energy Insight findings, as well as the key points from 2022 Outlook Report, are also available for download. The 2022 Outlook Report itself is on finalization stage and will be available for public in 2 weeks, so stay tuned. In addition to that, the 3 energy insights are also available in our website. We have the 2021 recap on electricity, renewable energy, and oil and gas. So go ahead, take a screenshot or scan the QR codes or simply click the links provided by my colleague in the chat box. The ASEAN Energy Outlook Forum is organized by ACE and supported by ASEAN Climate Change and Energy Project, or ACCEPT. One of ACCEPT's activities is the ASEAN Researchers Network on Energy and Climate Change. ARNEC is a group of scholars, analysts, and other stakeholders gathered in an interdisciplinary forum for the discussion on social, economic, governance, and technical issues related to energy and climate change. For more details on the project, you could access our website and various social media as shown in your screen. Before 2021 ended, ACCEPT team created a 2021 year in review, which was disseminated through our newsletter. If you want to see ASEAN's collective progress in advancing climate action in 2021, you can access the link in the chat box or scan the QR code in your screen. To receive updates on ASEAN's energy and climate sector continuously, you can subscribe to ACCEPT newsletter by going to ACCEPT website and fill in your email at the bottom of the home page. Distinguished guests and participants, ladies and gentlemen, now we have reached the end of the forum. Once again, on behalf of ACE, I would like to thank all speakers and participants for the extensive discussion today on the first ever ASEAN Energy Outlook Forum. I hope you all stay safe, stay healthy, and see you again on the next ASEAN Energy Outlook Forum 2023. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Deva. Thank you. Bye-bye.